Hi, this is Pastor Curtis, and this is A Psalm at Noon. We're in Psalms chapter 17 today, and this is a Psalm of David. It's a prayer. And there's times to praise, there's times to worship, and there's times to pray. And David really had something deep on his heart, and he was praying to God about it. Let's take a look at the Psalm today. Psalm 17, verse 1. Hear the right, O Lord, attend to my cry. Give ear unto my prayer, that goes not out of feigned lips. Let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let thine eyes behold the things that are equal. Thou hast proved mine heart. Thou hast visited me in the night. Thou hast tried me, and shall find nothing, on purpose that my mouth shall not transgress. So David, and he had a lot of problems especially in the early days, and really throughout David's life, he was tested, he was tried, and there's sometimes he had failed, there's sometimes he succeeded, but predominantly David's heart really purposed to do what was right and pleasing to God. And this could have been another psalm written in a time of hardship for David, and I would say a lot of songs and a lot of psalms came out of times of hardship. And so David is saying, hear the right, O Lord. I'm letting you be my judge. I'm letting you discern. I know what men will do. I know in the earth what might happen. But God, I know you rule over all things. And that really is the key. You rule over all things. And I'm going to let you be the judge. I'm going to let you determine. I'm going to let you work things out. And that's an awesome way to really keep peace, is when you're right with God and when you're walking in a way where you're doing your very best and not really getting away with things or skirting by and barely doing the bare minimum, but when you're really living for God and you're doing what's right and you just let God judge, there's a lot of peace in that. There's a lot of rest knowing God knows, and in the end, when this life is over, we'll be in heaven, and that's the most important thing. So he says, God, you judge. Attend to my cry and give ear to my prayer, that goes not out of feigned lips. Now, feigned lips, the word feigned really is more of an older word, and it means deceptive or deceiving. And it really can come at a time when somebody gets caught doing something they shouldn't be doing. And when they really want to put the pressure on, like they're innocent, or like it's not their fault, or they had nothing to do with it, they can put on the big tears and the big cry, and they can pretend so good that they even believe in their own heart that they weren't wrong. So somebody could be doing something seriously wrong, get caught, pour on the tears, pour on the emotions, put up the fight, but really on the inside, they were wrong. And they can come to a place a lot of times where they're trying to convince others, and they're so convinced in their own heart they're right that years later they'll still be convinced that they're right, even though they know they're wrong. This wasn't David. David wasn't trying to deceive God with his big tears. He wasn't trying to deceive God with his cry, Lord, you know I'm innocent, fight for me. He wasn't in a situation where he was guilty and got caught. He was in a situation where he was living for God, doing what God wants him to do, and people just came against him without it being something that he created in his life. It wasn't wrongdoing and getting caught and having to try to defend himself and reason in his mind. David's prayer to God was sincere and truthful. And this is what he says in verse 2. He said, let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Now, can you imagine if you were brought before a court of law, a judge, for doing something wrong? You're accused of doing something wrong. And just look at the judge and say, Judge, you know me better than anybody else. You discern what happened. I'm not even going to try to defend myself. You know me. And that's what David was saying to God, is God, you know me. You know that I do my very best to please you. You know that I try to keep my heart right in everything I do, that I try to honor you and be upright in every aspect. And so men might judge, they might judge wrong, they might discern wrong, but ultimately, God, I'm letting you be my judge. I'm letting you sentence me in whatever way you see fit, because I'm trusting you. David knew that was a good direction, and he deals with that later on. Let thine eyes behold the things that are equal. Let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let thine eyes behold the things that are equal. Thou hast proved my heart. Now that's a real blessing when God can test and prove an individual to know what's really going on inside of them. So David isn't saying, Lord, I'm a stranger to you, but I'm just coming to you and, you're supposed to be a good God and, you know me, God. Sometimes God doesn't know you. He can't prove you. He can't test you. Every little time a little trial or problem happens, you fall apart. You blame God. You blame people. You lose your temper. You lose your cool. You completely blow the whole area of God trying to test you. A test is when pressure's on you, hardships are on you, and you come out right. You take it with patience. You continue loving God. You stay faithful in the things that God's called you to do. That's how God can test you. That's how God can truly come to know you, is by what you do. I've met people through the years, and this is coming from a pastoral standpoint, that when they're going through something, the first thing they stop doing is going to church. It's like you call them up and they get so offended. Hey, brother, how you doing? Hey, sister, what's going on? Haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I'm just going through something. Have you stopped eating? Have you stopped going to work? Have you stopped spending time with your kids? Have you stopped being with your husband or your wife? No, the whole life continues on as normal. They just stop being in the presence of God because they're going through something, and God can't try them that way. He can't get to know what they're going to do he does get to know what they're going to do because they back away. Every time God tries to test them, they back away from Him. And so it's important. Lord, you proved me. You've let me go through the hardships and the troubling times, and I've come out serving you first, being faithful, Christian first. You know me, God. You visited me in the night. You've tried me, and you found nothing. You've tested every aspect of my life, and you found that my character and my love towards you stays sincere. And when your life is that way, and that's something about a Christian, and I'll just bring this up before we close, is that a Christian, our character doesn't change with circumstance. Our loyalty to God doesn't change with oppositions in the world. Our commitment to God, going to church, paying tithe, praying, caring about the lost, being a representative, an ambassador of Christ in every aspect of our life here on earth stays consistent, and it doesn't fluctuate with what we're going through. So David said, you tried me, you tested me, you've brought all kinds of things to see what I would do, and you didn't find anything. Because the loyalty David had was to God first. David said this as he closes up in verse 3. He says, I am purposed that my mouth shall not transgress. I am purposed that my mouth will not find fault, will not criticize. My mouth will not use profanity. It will not tell lies. It will not bail itself out when I make mistakes and try to blame somebody else for it. I've purposed in my heart not to transgress with my mouth. And that's a good purpose of heart. Once God comes to know you, He can then be able to judge rightly and discern what's going on in your life. Outside of that, if you're unknown by God, and you'd be surprised, there are a lot of people that are unknown by God because they just never come to a place. They can even call themselves Christians, go to church when it's convenient, read the Bible once in a while or some book about the Bible, but God doesn't know them because they don't let God try them. When you're tried of God and you come out faithful, that's how God gets to know you. Get to know God. Stay faithful in all times of your life. Love Him with all your heart. Serve Him every day. Because in heaven, it'll really be worth it all. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. We'll come back at you tomorrow with the rest of this prayer and this song. God bless.